Hi, I'm Opal Mitchell. I work for the Central Arkansas Library System and I work at the Nixon branch in Jacksonville. This is the Crafting with Opal program that I do on Thursday nights at 7 o'clock. And tonight I'm going to be showing you how to sew a pet leash. The one I'm going to be making is going to be more for a smaller dog. Because the little clasp that I have for mine only holds a smaller amount of weight. If you have a bigger dog, you would have to buy let's see, what are they called again? Swivel clasp. You'd have to buy one that was meant for a bigger dog. Let's see if we can show you how. Yeah, because they have weight limits on these little clasps that you can buy. And I got mine at Walmart, I think in the hardware department. So if you have a larger dog, then you'll need to buy one that's meant for, that would be able to deal with more weight, like whenever they're pulling. Otherwise, if you use this for a small dog, it would break. So be aware of that if you do decide to make a leash. Another thing is, if you have a larger dog, you may want to even make the leash a little bit wider. Let's see, I'll show you. This is an example of the one that I did. It's fairly small. If you wanted it, you can make it a little bit wider if you want to. I'm going to be showing you how to make the smaller one. This is not actually real small. It's actually, what is it, 3/4? It's 3/4 of an inch wide and not quite an inch wide. But you can make it a little bit wider for a bigger dog. And interfacing, we're not using interfacing in this, we're using just batting. I would also recommend with a bigger dog to use some heavyweight interfacing on the inside. That would probably be better for them than just this batting. Like I said, the one I'm showing you tonight. Oh, hey, hi Lisa. Good to see you. This is going to be towards more along the lines of a small dog, or maybe a dog that's I don't know, maybe up to a 15-pound dog maybe. I didn't look at the weight limits of the actual clasps, so I'm not real sure, because we got these for the library to do lanyards with, so, but just by looking at it, it's definitely going to be a much smaller weight limit, because we've had some like this before that my husband and I have bought to replace some of these that we're using for in our dog car seat that we have, and we needed one that would handle better weight. We were being cautious, so we got bigger ones, but yeah, this would be fine for a small dog. So what you're going to need for this that's the main thing. You'll need the little clasp. You're also going to use some batting for this. I just have some cotton batting. If you've got some different batting that's not cotton, that's more of the fiber fill type stuff, that's more plastic type, that'll work just as good for the small dogs type thing. And then you'll need some fabric. I've got one really long piece of fabric, so I'm not going to have to piece any pieces together, but we're going to be cutting out a 3-inch wide piece of fabric, and it's going to, with the one I'm doing, I'm going to make it about, I think it was 5 feet long. If you like longer leashes, then I would recommend making it longer. The pattern that I got from the internet, she has you cut out 7 feet worth of fabric for this leash. I found that too long for my pets. I went and actually grabbed one of my pet leashes and measured it, and with even folding the handle over and everything, I think 5 feet is going to be plenty for me for the length that I want. I think once it's folded and everything, the leash is going to be probably around 4 feet, which is fine for my little dogs. I don't want a really long leash for them, so that's why I'm doing mine the way that I'm doing mine. So if you prefer a longer leash, you can always make it longer. That's up to you. Just keep in mind, the longer you make it, you're probably going to have to piece together fabric to make it longer. So, and keep in mind too, if you have to do that, each piece, you're going to have to make it probably a good 3 or 4 inches longer than what you want that section to be, because when you piece it together, you lose some of the length of the fabric because of the way that you put it together. I'll kind of, I don't know if I'll have anything to show of that, but if you've ever done any bias tape, cut that out before and had to piece that together, you'll understand. It's a lot like, more or less, kind of making a long, really piece of bias tape in a way. But we're doing it with cotton fabric, and it's a little bit wider than most bias tape that you would buy. So, so that's basically. Well, it's good to see that I got a few people who have been watching this stuff, and thank you for coming to watch this tonight. I've got some of this pre-cut out. The long piece that I have, I'll have to cut it out, and the batting, I went ahead and cut it out just to, because I figured I'll just show you how wide you would need it whenever you're cutting yours out. So let me go ahead and switch over and show you how to do this. Okay. Alright. Get my table in here. And of course this is the one that I made already. And kind of show a little bit of how the ends are folded over. You just kind of put the clasp on the end and then fold it over and sew like an X on there to reinforce that part. And then on the other end, it's similar. You fold over your fabric and you put your inside piece there and do the same thing. Let's see, I have a 10-pound. Yeah, I think so, because I have a 10-pound Chihuahua Rat Terrier mix, and this will work on her because I was looking at the clasp that's on their leashes, and this seems to be the kind of clasp that's on theirs. But just like I said, look at the weight limit on the clasp when you buy it, just to make sure that it'll handle that weight, because it'll be on there. And then as far as the width and everything, this will work perfect for a small dog. And that's, I would consider 10 pounds a small dog. I also have a Chihuahua that's 7 pounds, so she's even smaller. I wouldn't even put a leash on a dog smaller than that, because most of the little toy-sized dogs don't like to walk. They like to be carried everywhere, it seems like. Alright, this is the batting that I cut out. And you'll need to cut out enough pieces. You don't have to sew these pieces together because it's going to lay inside of the batting or the fabric that we're going to cut out. And this is a 3/4 of an inch wide. So when you're cutting out these strips, you're going to need, it's going to be 3 1/4 inches wide, and then you're going to do enough pieces that it's going to fit the length of the leash that you're going to be cutting out. So mine, I'm going to make it 5 feet long, and I think I have about 6 feet of this already pre-cut, so that's more than enough for that. So we're going to move that out of the way, and we won't need that till later. So mine's going to be a lot simpler because I have one really long strip of fabric here already, which was kind of helpful. I dug through the scrap fabric we have at work. We've in the past had people donate stuff to us. And this is, and thank you, yes, this is pretty, I thought. And it's small enough too, you want to keep in mind the patterns for it to show up on the leash. You don't want anything with big pictures or on the pattern, because the bigger it is, the less likelihood that the designs are going to show through when you fold it over. So this one's a little big, but it's got some smaller designs in it that it works pretty good. Like a small polka dotted type one would work really well too. And then I like the little honeybees that are on this one too. That's cute. Alright, so I'm just going to get started showing you how to do this. You don't have to cut it out the way I'm cutting it out. I just prefer to use a rotary cutter with my mat here. It goes a little bit faster, and I have a ruler here that measures 3 inches wide, and that's how wide our fabric needs to be. So I'm just going to use it to, actually I'm going to reverse this because I like cutting on my right side because I'm right-handed. So I'm going to flip this over because this is the side I want to cut off because it's the part that I don't want. And this is fairly straight already on one side because I cut the other leash with it, or I cut it out of this fabric on this side. So you're just going to line it up if you're using, and this is not straight, so I'll have to do this side too to straighten it out. But you can use a ruler and a water-soluble pen, if I could say that right, soluble pen like one of these that will wash out when you wash it. You can use it to mark your fabric and just cut it out with scissors. That works just as well. It's a little slower that way. If you're a little unsure about using a rotary cutter, just practice with some other fabric first a few times. It gets easier and easier to use a rotary cutter, and I prefer it because it goes faster. And I was not that, good at using one in the beginning, but I've gotten a lot better the more I use it. And you'll find that your projects get done a lot faster this way too, if your ruler doesn't move on you. Which I'm doing mine at an angle, and when I do it at an angle, my ruler moves on me. If you're standing right on top of it, over it, you tend not to have that issue. I think I'm going to straighten out my edge, well, now or later, I don't know. Might be better to do it now. I just hate to do it left-handed. Let's see here. It's always awkward trying to do it from the left side. Especially if I'm having to lean over. It's awkward anyway, but even more awkward when I'm not standing right in front of it. Okay, yeah, I evened that out. That was not too bad. Okay, so I already know, just because ahead of time I measured how long this fabric is to make sure that it's long enough for what I'm doing. It's, I think, just a tad bit longer than 5 feet. So I'm just going to cut it all the way down, and because I know that it's approximately how long I want it to be. So go ahead and, oops, make sure I got it all the way to the top there. And this other edge is a lot straighter than my first one I did. On this side anyway, so I don't have to, it's a little bit off. I'll cut just a tad bit off of there. Oh, it's moving on me. Let's see, what did I get cut? Let's see. If you, and another trick is with the rotary cutter, is learning to cut straight down without leaning into the ruler, because that's what makes it move, is if you push it at, you know, that direction as you're cutting. Try to cut straight down without putting pressure next to the ruler. It takes time learning how to do that, because I still struggle with that. Seems like I'm always angled over my fabric instead of standing straight over it. If you stand straight over it, it's not as, you don't have as many problems. Okay, let's see here. Just want to keep it lined up with that other edge, and if you have a big piece of fabric, you're going to have to cut one side and then cut the other. So keep that in mind. It'll take you a little bit longer if you don't have a piece of scrap fabric like I do that's already a strip. Okay. I was just trying to make this go quickly when I was teaching it online here, so it wouldn't, because this is a pretty simple project, very straightforward. I didn't want to take a lot of time cutting this stuff out, because most people don't have any problems knowing how to cut their fabric out. So I wanted to get that done, and you will need an iron to iron this. I'm going to see if I have a bias tape. There's a gadget you can buy for bias tape to help you iron them, or make it easier when you're ironing them. Okay, I'm not going to need this anymore. This is what I'm talking about. I'll show you when I get my ironing board up here, because that will be the next part. We're going to be folding this. If you don't have one of these, and I don't know if mine's going to fit or not yet, what you're going to do is you're going to fold your fabric in half, and you're going to iron down this edge, and you're going to do that all the way down your strip. Then once you have that folded, you're going to fold one edge into that crease, and then fold the other edge into the crease and fold it over, and then you'll iron it down. It's pretty straightforward. Let's see. I'm trying to remember which one of these. This like folds it for you, and you have to get the right size. I think that's the wrong size. I don't believe this is going to be it either, but I'm going to see. It might be. Wait, I guess I could just measure. Let's see here. You have to feed this through to the end. Let's see if this is going to work. No, it's too big. Yeah, it's too big for that. It's not folding it correctly. Or maybe I didn't feed it in there right. I don't think that's, yeah, I think that's two. I have one more. Let me see. I'll probably have to do it the old-fashioned way. Oh yeah, this one's, I think this one's too big. Well, maybe not. No. See, it's not folding it all the way in for me, so that's too big. I might just have a weird size here, I think, because it's not supposed to go up. Let's see. I'm trying to see how, because if it's folded in half, because, yeah, that's not going to work. Okay. I thought I would look and see and try to make it easier on myself, but nah. Definitely not going to work. Alright, so I'm just going to do the old-fashioned way, because most people don't have those anyway. So, let's just fold this in half. And I do not know if my iron is ready or not. It's not hot. I'm going to move this over just a little bit. And I'm going to, this is trying to tip over on me, so oops. Alright, let's see if my iron is heating up. Kind of get some pre-folding here while it's heating up. And, oh yeah, I need to show you, if you needed to piece some of your pieces together, when you have them like this, and you have another piece, and I'm just going to, this is not going to be exactly right because this piece is not as wide. Your other piece, yeah, that's, if I flip it out, it's the same. They're both going to be this wide, and what you'll do, and just pretend this is not white, because this part you wouldn't use. When you're putting your pieces together, you would lay the other piece, whoops, wrong direction. Let's see, we got to have our wrong sides together. So either put your right sides together or your wrong sides, which typically you're going to do the wrong sides or the right sides. So they would be facing each other, and you would cross them over like this. And you, usually what I'll do, because I can't sew directly across without not being exact, so what I would do is get a ruler and make sure you know where this point is, and line the ruler up with both corners, these little points, and draw a line across that directly across, then you would sew that. And then once you had it sewed down, you would fold it. It would be sewed down like, now if I can get it right here, it would be like, it'd be pieced together like this. But like I said, just ignore this because this is the only thing I have to show as an example. And that's how you would piece them together to make longer straps. If you want to watch a better video on how to do that, just Google how to make bias tape. There's a lot of videos out there that show you how to do that, and that's exactly what you're making, more or less, is bias tape by doing this. So, alright, I think my iron should be warmed up by now, so let me go ahead and get this folded again. And this is the biggest part of this, really, is pressing it and then laying the batting inside of it. Hey Terry, how are you doing tonight? So I guess even if you're not interested in making dog leashes, this is actually a good tutorial on how to make bias tape too. And I guess it's just really, I try to call it a pet leash because some people like to have leashes for their cats. I don't know who would be able to put a leash on their cat, but some people, I guess, are able to. And then I've also seen other smaller animals that people have put on leashes before, like ferrets and stuff. So, you know, this would be fine too if you wanted to make one for your ferret. If you wanted to make a more personalized one, because, you know, they've got plenty of inexpensive leashes that you can buy in the store. But if you had some fabric you really liked, that fit your personality and your pet's personality, then that would be a fun way to make your leash a little more personal. I thought about doing a Nightmare Before Christmas one because I have a lot of Nightmare Before Christmas fabric, and that's something I really like. So you could, you know, do something like that if you wanted. Because you're probably not going to find a Nightmare Before Christmas leash, more than likely, and if you do, it's probably going to be really expensive. I had to go pick up one of my dogs because she had jumped out of her bed that was in the chair over there and went and visited with my husband, and now she came back and wanted it in her bed again. So alright, so once we get it ironed where it's folded in half, then we're going to unfold it, and then we're going to use that crease is where we're going to be folding these other pieces. So if you feel comfortable folding both pieces inwards, then you could do all of that. But this is so long, it's going to be kind of difficult to do that. So I'm going to just fold it once and then iron it down, and then I'll do the other side, because when it's really, really long like this, it's difficult to do both sides at the same time. Because mine's trailing off the side of my table over here, and it's kind of pulling on it and making it difficult for me to do that. So I'm going to just do this side first, and then I'll fold the other side. And now that I made this leash a lot shorter, it's not going to take quite as long. Oops. It keeps fighting with me. And if you hear a weird noise, I don't know how it sounds on the microphone. It's kind of hot in here, so I have my fan on, and it makes a kind of a weird noise while it's turning. It's not quite a whining noise, it's more like a wah 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 noise. It's the only one in our house. We have a bunch of fans like in all the different rooms, but this is the only one that makes this noise. There's nothing wrong with it, it's just what it does. Okay, so we're going to get this folded. And make sure that you're folding their fabric all the way into the crease that you created earlier. And I've done another project really similar to this, which was a lanyard, where it's the exact same process. It's the same little clasp that you use to put on the end of it, because it works for lanyards too. Except with the lanyard, you're just, I think I'm going to flip this over. With a lanyard, you don't have like an open end. Oh, that did not come over all the way. Because you want it to come all the way over to that. Oops, and I just grabbed a wire there to my camera. Okay, so you're going to fold the other one into the crease and then fold it over. I wish my fabric would open up all the way so it wouldn't keep giving me issues. But once you fold this other piece, you want both sides to be lined up like that. You don't want one sticking out further than the other. You know that you didn't get it folded over all the way if that's not doing that. Hey, Amy, how are you doing? How's your new puppy dogs? Are they... At least one of them is a puppy, so you're probably still potty training right now. That's always fun. The other one, at least, is already 2. Shouldn't have any problems with that one. Can't wait to see your new babies one of these days when all this COVID stuff's over with. That'll be exciting. Alrighty. Oh yeah, you might like to make a leash for your puppies. I've seen some really cute unicorn fabric at Walmart that's already cut into one piece, like a yard of the fabric already cut, where you could buy it. That would be cute. I almost bought some of it too the last time I was in there. But I ended up buying a bunch of Nightmare Before Christmas fabric they had finally got back in, because I want to make some curtains. It's that one of the purple prints of Nightmare Before Christmas fabric that I really like, and I've been trying to get a hold of it since May so I could make some curtains out of it for my craft room, but they've been out of it until now. All the places have been. Because everyone was wanting to learn how to sew, it seems like, and so they were buying up all the available fabric. Okay, so now that I'm getting this other side ironed down, we will be able to start doing some sewing. And whatever color thread you want to use, just kind of decide on how much you want it to show up. My other one I made of this, I used a black thread on it, but right now I've got some purple on my machine, and this has got little bits of purple in it, so I think I'm going to just go ahead and go with purple. I think that'll be a cute little accent. So first thing we're going to do is this folded edge right here. We're going to sew all the way down it to sew it closed. One of the things that the pattern, the person that did the pattern, what they have, or what they did, I'm going to get a picture so I can show you. Oh wait, I got to put this inside of it before we do that. I'm glad I got this. I was going to show you, they didn't sew down one side. So if you like the way this looks with having stitching on both sides, you can do that. It's perfectly fine. I'm kind of lazy. And I only did one side on mine, and I thought it looked just fine, and I really didn't want to go back and do the other side. So that's very optional. You don't have to. So I'm going to go ahead, before I sew it, I'm going to put my little clasp over by my sewing machine. so I don't forget where that is. And I've got the strips that I've already cut out that's going to go inside. So we're going to unfold this. I know all this effort to fold it, and now we're going to be unfolding it to put the strips inside of it. So you're just going to pick one side, it doesn't matter which side, and you're going to lay it on that one side, inside of there. And the thing about this is once you've gotten one strip in there, they don't have to be, these pieces do not have to be attached that you're laying inside. So once, I'm going to get this open so you can kind of see. Once you get one piece and you've got your ending point there, you're going to just get your next one, and you're kind of probably going to overlap just a tiny bit because it's going to shift on you, so might as well overlap just a tiny bit to make make up for the whatever shifting it's going to do. And I'm going to go ahead and fold over the other piece, and I'm going to get some clips for this to clip it into place. You can go back and pin this closed, but I have these little clips, and I like them better for this, so I'm just going to, actually that is a little bulky. I think I'm going to do a little more ironing on that to make sure that it lays flatter. So I'm just going to do that to make sure everything's going to do better when I send it through my sewing machine, because it acts like it doesn't want to quite flatten out for me. It's a little bulky for me. And when I clip it, it should stay in place a little bit better. It was acting like it didn't want to. And if you hear any kind of grunting noises in the background, it's my puppy dog. She's trying to make her bed in the floor with a blanket. She has a bed, but she likes blankets to move them around and stuff, and so she's always been one that likes to make her bed. So she makes a lot of noise. Okay, so here's one more strip here to put in there, and then I'll clip everything into place. Actually, I cut quite a bit more than what I needed because I ended up making a shorter leash than what I had planned. Oh, Lucy, I'm going to step on you, girl. Don't be getting right underneath my feet. Okay, so now that I've got all that batting in there, I'm going to do a little more ironing just to make sure, because it gets a little bulky with that batting in there. It'll do a lot better job of staying shut if you do this. Okay, and I have one piece hanging out the end because I made it a little longer than what I needed, which is fine because I can cut that off. It's not a big deal. You just don't want it too short. Too long is fine. So let me get my scissors. And I have a little bit of a raw edge on my fabric, so I'm just going to cut that whole little end off to even it out. And then I'm going to, I don't need that, that's extra. So now I'm going to clip it to make sure that it's going to stay in place. And like I said, you can pin it if you want to. I just find the clips a little faster, so it makes it a little bit easier when I'm doing a program to do things at take less time. These little clips are very handy. The first time I bought them was because I was making something with waterproof fabric and I couldn't poke holes in the fabric because I needed it to stay waterproof, and so these came in very handy for that. I didn't have to worry about poking holes in it. They can be pricey though. I got mine, I lucked out, found Walmart had them clearanced for a pretty good price. If you get them, get the ones that are not the name brand, they're quite a bit cheaper. I think, I don't have the brand name on it. I'm trying to remember who it is that makes them. Oops, I closed it. I need it open so I can get a few more. And then I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine and sew this edge down. And like I said earlier, you can, let's see, do I need to cut that end? You can always sew both edges down if you want, but you want to start with the edge that is open when you first sew. You don't want to sew the other side first. Okay, so I think that's good as far as clipping it. And I'm going to move everything over. I'm trying to think if I need my iron for anything else before, if I just leave it there. I think it'll be fine if I leave it there. So let's scoot over to the sewing machine. Alright, and let me get my actual project over here too. Scoot a few things out of the way, and then tilt this so you can see. Alright, I'm not sure where I'm going to put this yet, but alright. This is so, since it's a leash, it's really long, so I'm like, okay, which way am I going to do this? Okay, so I'm going to take this one off because at the very beginning. I have a walking foot on my machine. It's not necessary to have one to do this project. It's just the last few projects I've done on my machine, I've needed my walking foot for it, and it works really well for bulky things that you're sewing, and this is kind of bulky, so I just left it on there because it works well for that type of thing. I'm going to back it up just a little bit. And you want to get as far over to the edge as possible, so I'm going to move my needle where it's going to hit this spot all the way to the right. And I'm going to shift this a tiny bit because I want to get as close to my edge as possible. And I'm going to, start with my needle in my fabric before I back up. And let me look at my settings to make sure, what do I have everything set on? I've got a straight stitch, and it's kind of bulky, so I'm going to extend the stitch length to a 4, and then go with that. So I'm going to back up first, because the bulkier the item is that you're sewing, the longer the stitch length is, the better. Double check my work and make sure it's looking okay. Yeah. stray thread there. I'll pull that out. There's another stray thread. This is a very straightforward project, so you might get a little bored watching this. But if you want to practice doing straight sewing with a straight edge, this would be a good beginner's project for learning how to do that, to get used to it. I was noticing how much gold is in this. It would have been cute using some gold thread too, or even green. That's the neat thing about sewing, trying different things to accent your project. If you wanted to blend with this one, a burgundy color would have been a good blending one where you didn't want it to show at all. But if you wanted it to be kind of decorative, like the purple I used, or one of the greens would have been pretty too. Or even like the gold, because it's got several things of gold in there too. And if you had some with the same color as the lighter pink in the flower too, that would be pretty. It would have blended more though, the pink, just because the overall color is a red color. Alright, so we're going to do a little bit of backing up here once I get close to the end. Alright, now we're done with that part. And like I said, that's the only part I'm going to sew down. If you would like a top stitch on the other side, you would just go and do the other side. I'm not. I'm happy with it being on this side. It might lay a little more flat if you do a top stitch on both, but I'm not going to worry about it. I'm happy with the way it looks. I'm going to cut off my extra threads here. There's my scissors, my little scissors here. And I'm going to show you how to do the handle and how to put the little clasp on there. And get rid of my other stuff here. Okay, so I'm going to do this part first. So you're going to slide it onto the end of this first, and you're going to fold over anywhere. I'm going to do about an inch, not quite, probably more like a 3/4 of an inch over. I'm folding, and then I'm going to fold it over again, and we're going to sew a box, and then we're going to do an X, and that's just a reinforcing stitch that you can do. You do want to have it a little ways away from this. I'm going to slide it a little bit more away from that, because once you start sewing, your sewing foot and stuff having enough room under there, sometimes you can't get real close to where that is. So I'm going to give myself a little extra room, but mostly what we're going to be sewing is we're going to make sure that we sew all the way down to this little area right here. We're not going to sew off into the area where this is not, and we'll stop, and that's where we're going to make our little box. So I'm going to start with, let's see, since I'm like this, I'm going to start on this edge and put that down, and that's not as close to the edge as I want to be, so I'm going to lift that back up. Couldn't tell exactly where it was going to hit. I want to get a little closer to where the fold is. Alright, so I'm a little closer there, keeping it all together. Alright, and I'm going to reverse stitch, and I'm doing this manually because I have a little more control over it when I'm doing it manually than actually sewing forward. Okay, now that I've got that done, I'm going to sew forward with the machine. It's going to make a lot of noise because it's so thick, and then we're going to turn it. And you got to keep in mind where that fabric ends, so you got to keep an eye on that. I'm going to sew forward again. I'm a little concerned about how fast it's going, so I want to make sure. Okay, that's going to get me to that end of that fabric, so I'm going to turn it again. Now I'm going to sew forward again. I think I'll go one more turn. That'll get me closer. Then we get to turn one more time, and this is the box that we're making here. Okay, so we're going to sew forward to where we started. I like to go slow so my machine doesn't get away from me. Okay, so now I've gotten back to the beginning of where my box was. Okay, since I went in a box shape, now I want to do an X. So in order to do my X, I'm going to pull my fabric through here. I want to go back across to this other corner. So we're going to turn, and I want to come to this corner over here. So you want to line that up the best that you can to try to come straight across to this other corner. And I'm kind of manually walking it because I'm a little unsure about how straight I've gotten it. I'll go ahead and try. Yeah, I did okay. Alright, so I made it to that corner. So now I'm going to have to go down the edge to do my other one. So I'm going to turn it this direction and go back across here. And get to my corner. And now I got to turn it again. It's lots of turning. And now I'm going to do my other X and come across to this corner. Alright, so I think I got it lined up pretty good. So I'm going to try. When I get really close, that's when I like to slow down. Whoops, I'm going to go off the edge. I don't really want to do that. Nope, I don't. We're going to reverse. No, okay. Darn it. Let's just move you just a little bit. I want to come down, but I don't want to go past that point. I want to be in that corner. Okay. So just to reinforce this side, I'm going to go back across here to where I started. So that's where I started, and I'm just going to do a couple of back stitches and then forward again. And I think that's good. So I'm going to pull that out of there. Okay. And cut off all my little threads. I want to make sure it's on there good. And I'm going to show you what it looks like. So that's what it ends up looking like whenever you get done. Of course it's not lined up with this, but that's okay. You want to get as close to the edges as possible, and I'll show you right there. There's my edge and my stitching, and there's my other folded edge and my stitching. So that's what you want to do. You get as close as possible to those whenever you're doing this part. And then you notice whenever I was doing everything, I made sure I went over this one and over this one, so it tacks it down really good. If you end up tacking this side and this side down more, well, that's okay too. If you want it to go over it again, there's no reason why you can't. Alright, so this is this part for the clasp, and now I'm going to switch over and we're going to do the exact same thing for the handle. So this is my other end, and you want to decide how big of a handle you want to have. So what's comfortable for your hand, if you don't already have a leash to compare it to. But you are going to have to fold over the end of your fabric the raw end edge of it, and that's what you're going to sew down. So then you figure out how big of a handle you need for your hand. So I think that's going to work. So I'll give you an idea what it looks like, how it's folded, and that's that raw edge there. And you're just going to be lining them all up together like so. And I'm going to do the same thing I did on the other end. And hey Jonna, how are you doing? Okay, so I'm going to start right here on the edge and try to, yeah, that's exactly where I want to start. And I'm going to go forward like 2 stitches, and then I'm going to reverse 2 stitches. Well, I guess I did 3, but that's okay. You always want to get that first reinforced. And I think I can go forward 1 more stitch to get before I come off the edge there. Alright, and so now we're going to turn. Oops, sorry, did not mean to do that. And now when we come forward, we don't want to go past this point, so we want to go up to this. So be very careful when you're sewing forward. Keep in mind that you don't want to go past that. If you have to double check it, lift up your fabric a little bit, that's fine. And I think I'm getting close. I think 1 more stitch will be good. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to turn this direction. We're going to come across, and you can kind of see that fabric under there. So now we're going to go forward. And 1 more. There we go. We're going to go in a box shape here by turning again. And then we're going to meet back at where we started. Whoops, keep hitting that. I want to get all the way to that starting point there. Okay, so now I got back to that corner, and now I'm going to do my little X. I'm going to have to pull everything through here since I keep turning. Okay, and always try to keep that thread out of the way too. So now I want to go across to this corner. So try to keep that lined up with your needle. You want to come across to here. Alright, oops, I keep hitting things here. And if you don't get it perfectly straight, it's okay. Don't worry about it if it doesn't get completely straight. Alright, so now I'm going to turn again and come back across so I can start from this other corner to do my other X, other part of my X. Alright, so you're going to keep turning and turning stuff to do this. Okay. Well, I didn't quite make it to the corner, but that's okay. I was really, really close. This is just reinforcing it, so try to see if that's gonna, yeah, that gets there. Okay. So now we're going to go back across this final time, and we will be done. I will back stitch a couple of times, and no, I don't want to do that. That's nice and good. That's going to stay where I want it. Alright, so that is it. Alrighty. So let me cut off my threads. Alright, so now we've got a dog leash. I'll show you how it kind of ended up. So it's a little wavy, but that's okay. The main thing is you're just wanting to tack this down really good where it won't come undone. And doing a box and then an X really does tack it down really good. And you notice I went over this edge and this edge twice, so it really, really tacks down that really good so it won't come apart. And that's the main thing. You don't want that to come apart. And that's more important with the bigger dogs than with the small dog, because this one's meant for a small dog anyway. So yeah. Alright, so that is this week's project, and I'm going to get I have an example of next week's. It's actually done with the same fabric I worked with this week. It's going to be a little mini wallet, and it's also got one of the little clasps on it. And it's got a button, so you'll get to learn how to install a snap onto it. It's just a very basic small wallet that you can like hook to your belt buckle if you want to. And it's very simple, very basic, and it's cute. It's big enough to fit some credit cards and some cash in it if you want something quick and easy to grab, just carry with you. So this is going to be next week's, and then the week after I'm going to do a simple face mask. Don't believe I have one in here with me right now, but it's just a very, very simple, basic face mask. And then the week after that, we'll be doing a paint-along, which will be a pumpkin that we'll be painting. I don't have an example of that one just yet because I haven't painted it just yet. But that's next week's. And tomorrow, I am doing a program that's called the First Friday Crafts. And that one we do on the first Friday of every month. We've been doing that since July. And the first 2 Fridays we did in July, and then August we did embroidery. Here, I guess I'll switch this around. And then, turn that light off. The next month we did, I think it was, we had Megan do a needle felting class for us last month, yeah, in September. And then, so in October, this first Friday, we're going to be doing some how to spin with a drop spindle. If you've never seen that before and interested in seeing it, so that will be what I'm doing tomorrow at 10 o'clock live for the First Friday craft. I'll also have my spinning wheel with me. I got to remember to take that to work with me to kind of show you the differences between the spinning drop spindle and the spinning wheel. The drop spindle is kind of like a cheaper version of a spinning wheel, a more economical version. So if you don't want to spend $400 or $500 on a spinning wheel, you can buy a drop spindle for about 20 bucks, and you can still spin. It's just a little bit different. So that's what I'll be doing tomorrow, and then I already went over what we're doing the rest of the month for Crafting with Opal. So that's it for this time. I'll see y'all later. Bye.